Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica. On this week's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Super Castlevania IV on the Super Nintendo, released in 1991. I know I completely tore apart Dracula X, so we're playing this game to kind of bring back that Castlevania vibe on the Super Nintendo without me just totally destroying it. Before we get too far in though, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, definitely helps us out. But we are right into the game here. You got that great skull in the background, kind of reminds me of Kong Island. I don't really know if that ever shows up in another Castlevania game, but that skull in particular is definitely appealing to me for some strange reason. We are playing the Japanese version, and you're going to see in the beginning we get a lot of upgrades compared to the North American version, and that is a big difference, is that this version is going to be a little bit easier than the North American version. You can see that our whip is basically fully powered up before we encounter a single enemy. But the incredible part about this game is not only how good it plays and how much it's loved, but this was a launch game for the Super Nintendo as well as the Super Famicom. This came out like 2 to 3 months after the Super Nintendo came out in North America, so I guess it's more of a launch window game than a launch day game. But considering this is one of the original Super Nintendo games, it holds up incredibly well. Now, graphically, it does have some slowdown, and it definitely isn't as impressive as some of the later era Super Nintendo games, but it's got a lot of that Mode 7 effect in it that Nintendo was so keen to show off when the system first came out. Now, right onto this first boss here. I don't know that I love the colors in the background, but I do love the little skull rider here riding that horse with that kind of bone dragon neck to it. Can't remember if he has a name or not. Pretty easy first boss. But compared to Dracula X, this game is infinitely more playable. It feels a lot more fair, and it's definitely, if I was going to recommend one Castlevania game for the Super Nintendo, this is 100% going to be the game that I do recommend. I do love the little Mode 7 effects on the stage select screen here. You zoom in, has the same vibe as like Ghouls and Ghosts, where they show you where you're coming from, where you're going, and just give you a little bit more layout of the overall land mass that you're navigating through when you play the game, and I do like things like that. So, we're right on the stage 2 here. The soundtrack for this game is definitely interesting. It's a little jazzy in spots. You get that little grass monster there, and he is transparent, so right off the bat you get those Mode 7 effects, you get some transparencies, and you're really seeing what the Super Nintendo can do. If you look at the background, those clouds up there to the parallax layers, it looks like there's 3 different independent layers going by, and that's something that the Super Nintendo was pretty good at, throwing all those layers around. It was definitely a step up from the Nintendo Entertainment System, obviously. You know, the Genesis could do it. The PC Engine could kind of do it. They could trick you into thinking it was going on, kind of like a little effect they had doing. But short of that, this game is just absolutely incredible. It's one of those games that's been re-released on pretty much every platform possible, including the Super Nintendo Mini Classic system, so you can pick it up and play it wherever you'd like. I do like that you get some of these mid-stage bosses as well. Medusa's going to come out here and attack us, and then once we beat her, we're going to continue on the stage. The boss isn't going to be the stage ending, and that's something that I think is a nice touch compared to the classic Castlevania games where the boss was the culmination of the stage, but here we're right into this little water area where we have the flying imps coming down and trying to attack us. This kind of feels like the transitional link between those classic NES games and something like Symphony of the Night. You get a little bit deeper of a level structure, you get some bosses that don't end the stages, you get a little bit more exploration, and that's something that I like in my Castlevania games. I definitely took much more to the Symphony of the Night era style Metroidvania games, but I didn't want to show these for the series just because they've been so talked about, and I wanted to talk about games that I wasn't as familiar with because I wanted to discover, you know, some of the Dracula games and some of the Castlevania games again because I hadn't played this game in many years. Have the little, you know, they look like flea men, they hop like flea men, but they're more like imps, but they give you that same effect, and they're the worst enemy in the Castlevania series by far. They'll absolutely just drive you nuts. What I'll let you do is I'll let you watch a little bit of the gameplay here. I'll be back to close out the video, talk some more about Super Castlevania IV, but I want you guys to hear some of the soundtrack in the background, so just listen closely, enjoy it. I'll be back in a second. I do love all those different drum beats you get in the background soundtrack for the game. You know, the whip sound effect, I can't say that I love that. I think that's an area where this game is a little weak, is the sound effects are kind of strange. When that skeleton explodes, you get like a little mouse squeaking noise. So I can't say that in that area that this is my favorite game as far as sound's concerned, but sort of everything that goes into making this game, these statues here that are all broken up as we're going into the castle, those all look great, especially for a first generation Super Nintendo game. I mean, gameplay-wise, it absolutely holds up, and graphically, it's, like I said, not the best on the system, but you're definitely not going to really be missing out much. I mean, if this game had come out in the late stages of the Super Nintendo life cycle, the graphics may have been a little bit more impressive, but I really don't think they would have done anything extra with the gameplay because this game is just that good off the top. Now, as far as the difficulty is concerned, I'm much better at this game than I am at Dracula X. Dracula X just always destroys me completely, although this game puts up enough challenge that you're going to definitely feel like you're getting your money's worth if you actually buy it on any system. You're not going to be able to breeze through it in half an hour, 45 minutes, unless you absolutely know the Castlevania formula front to back. I mean, you could probably speedrun this game, and it would be pretty easy to learn because everything is repeatable, but that's just my thoughts on it. But this particular area, the chandelier with Mode 7, that was a huge thing that Nintendo was pushing, the scalable and rotatable sprites on the hardware. But this area can be quite tricky. You're going to see that towards the end here, I'm just going to fall off. I line my jump up, but the platform moves in a really strange manner as I jump down to it. So definitely it was a use of graphics that was probably not necessary, but it was a showcase piece. And that, it's just, it's only in a few spots, so it's not really going to beat you up too bad, but it's definitely something you'll see here. I jump, and I just don't have the forward momentum to make it out. What I'm going to do is show you the Dracula fight. It's not the best in the series, but I do love this little secret area down here with these invisible platforms. You can power your character up completely. You get everything you need to go into the Dracula fight, although he still definitely beats me. I didn't have a good track record of beating Dracula in this particular season on YouTube. I haven't played a lot of these games in a while. I mean, I've definitely beaten all of these back when they came out, but recently I just not in practice for these 2D Castlevania games. But like I said, this is a great stage for Dracula's fight. I do love how the background art recesses in and you see his coffin popping up. You get these little purple lightning bolt effects. They definitely used a lot of bright colors for this game compared to some of the other Castlevania games. You get a lot of purples, you get a lot of reds, so it's more of a colorful game than Rondo of Blood, and that was just, the Super Nintendo could push a lot more colors out compared to the systems that came before it, so I think Konami just definitely used a lot of that. But short of that, I 100% recommend you play this game. If for some reason you haven't before, definitely pick it up. You can emulate it. You can get it on the Super Nintendo Classic. I think you can download it on the eShop for the Switch now. Anywhere you can find this game. But we're dead. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the episode and have a great time. Bye-bye.